A couple of things. First of all, I want to thank you all for being here, subpoena or not. Appreciate the work that you do. Second, I want to say a couple of things. One is, I am a strong supporter of congressional oversight, and I do believe that when Congress requests information, it should be provided. But I have some significant concerns about the way we've proceeded on this hearing. When you go back to the basics here, there is a very serious question about what happened to the emails, and we're investigating that. The IG has investigated that. But there's also a very serious question about the abuse of the 501c4 status. And that, in my view, is a worthy topic of investigation. No group should be targeted because of their political affiliation, whether they're conservative or liberal. I totally agree with that. But no one should be allowed to abuse the 501c4 status. That's worthy, in my view, of investigation. It's not a tax exemption, as Mr. Issa mentioned, but it's a way of funneling money under the cover of doing social welfare work, which is really about political advocacy. And political advocacy is fine, but do it in the daylight, not in the dark. And don't undercut the merits and the legitimacy of 501c4 social welfare organizations by turning them into political operations. And frankly, I'd like to see our committee giving equal weight to that investigation. This dark money that's going into politics, in my view, is really pernicious for democracy. And it's terrible if we have any agency of government that's not providing requested information. There's always a fair question if there's been a computer crash, how did that happen? Was it intentional? But there's also this fundamental question about the money in politics and the use of the 501c4 organizations by liberal or conservative groups basically to hide the money that's going into political advocacy. The second thing, Mr. Chairman, is that, yes, we have to examine these questions, but I do not think that jumping to conclusions and assuming the worst possible interpretation is a way to, A, give respect to folks who dedicate their lives to public service, whether it's in the IRS or any other agency, and B, any way to educate the American people about what the problems may be in an organization, because the whole point of accuse first and examine facts second is to attack the very legitimacy of the organization that's being investigated. And I'd point out that when you lose information, it does raise a question. But I know Mr. Issa, our chairman, during the Bush administration, had to explain that oftentimes that can happen with computers. Was it innocent? Was it deliberate? We don't know. And one suggestion, talking to Mr. Lynch, who may discuss this, why not have the AG take a look at this? Why not have the IG do it? You know, we've got a partisan situation going on here that's getting in our way of getting to, I think, what is a shared goal of getting to the bottom of the
Would the gentleman yield?
I will yield.
This won't surprise you. The way this investigation started is I went to the IG, TIGTA, because they had the ability to look at 6103, and we were interested, and they began that investigation. One of the problems is the IG was never given that drive, nor were any entities independent and outside the IRS, which is, you know, one of the reasons that as an IT background guy, I've never seen a disk drive that has 0 left on it.
Well, may I'll reclaim my time. Thank you. And I thought that was a good move on your part. I think we're getting a little bit off the rails now, because I think if we got the IG to look into this question, where essentially there's a motivation issue that both sides, without the facts, can come to their own conclusions, and usually we all come to conclusions that suit our political bias, I think it just creates a swamp. You know, in this function that we have in this committee, Mr. Issa, as you know, and I appreciate your aggression, but there's got to be, in my view, a balance where, yes, we investigate real hard, but it doesn't so overwhelm that this fundamental question about the 501c4 abuse, in my view, suddenly is not an issue. I mean, I was one of the people who was concerned and wrote a letter to the IRS saying, what's going on? Do your job. Investigate. And, you know, there's no free ride around here. If you're a taxpayer and you're not paying your taxes, I think the IRS should investigate you. I think if you're a 501c4 organization and you're essentially a cover for a liberal or conservative political ideology and you're not doing social welfare work, you should lose your 501c4 investigation. And thank you, Mr. Issa, for doing that with the IG initially, and I'd like to see us get back on track here, and maybe they can help us out with this specific question that we're dealing with now. And I yield back.
I thank the gentleman. I'll now recognize